also reconnect with something beautiful from the past. We'll begin with Ieng Sithul.
Some Juliet Sword and Octany, not today, Soroline, does it like group.
So, very good morning to everybody.
You, Jeanette, and Jimmy, do you and you be a commit, be Bomno, then away the Jintra food,
So, we are all the theater people, so we know a lot about what we are going to do and how can we cooperate together.
Nhóm miền Trung Niên hàng là khâu chiếm nâng chi đơn trai có chi nẹt đi buôn mùi đá.
I am a theater performer. I am also a singer and a musician.
Nhómศึกษาในชั้นmột buôn rồi chết sắp nó về đây sắp nhóm chặt ra miền sông Krieg.
I was studying in 1970 when my country fell into war.
ខ្ញុំរៀនបាន5ឆ្នាំស្រុកខ្ញុំត្រូវពលពតចូលមកគឺយើងត្រូវរត់ទៅនៅឯស្រុកស្រែទាំងអស់
I studied art for 5 years, and in 1975, when Pol Pot took control of the country, we were evacuated to the countryside.
ព្រោះនៅសម័យពលពតគឺជាទេសកលដែលយើងមិនអាចតថ្លៃបានហើយមិនអាចប្រកែកនឹងមានយោបល់ជាមួយគេបាន
In the Pol Pot regime, we were like slaves. We do not have any freedom, and we cannot give any voice.
យើងមានកំណត់ច្រើនថាយើងត្រូវតែសរសេររឿងពលពតរឿងដែលយើងជួបប្រទះជារៀងរាល់ថ្ងៃប៉ុន្តែយើងអត់មានឱកាស
We wanted to create art. We want to write about this and that, especially the brutality during the Khmer Rouge regime, but we can never do that.
ថ្ងៃមួយរំលឹកខួបថ្ងៃ17មេសាឆ្នាំ1975ចុងឆ្នាំ1976បាននិយាយថារំលងមួយឆ្នាំគឺបានធ្វើខួបពេលនោះខ្ញុំមានឱកាសដល់គេថាគេចង់បានគេសួរយើងជាណាមកពីណា
So in we were evacuated on the 17th of April 1975. Then in 17th of April 1976, they celebrate a 1-year anniversary of the regime, and they asked me, what can I do for that?
ខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំជាសិល្បករមកទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញខ្ញុំជាអ្នកចម្រៀងនិងជាអ្នកតន្ត្រីករ
I told them I am the artist from Phnom Penh. I can sing and I can play music.
គេក៏ថាគឺចង់មើលអ្នកឯងច្រៀងនិងលេងល្ខោនឲ្យពួកគេមើល
And they told me that they want to see a play performance by me.
អ្នកឯងត្រូវតែធ្វើមួយរឿងឲ្យអង្គការមើលក្នុងរយៈពេល20នាទី
So please do something for 20 minutes so that you can show to us.
យើងគិតថាអ្វីដែលយើងនិយាយពាក្យពិតប្រកាសជាយើងត្រូវគ្រោះថ្នាក់ត្រូវស្លាប់ហើយនិយាយយើងនិយាយពូផជួនកាលរួចខ្លួនជួនកាលក៏មានគ្រោះថ្នាក់
So I was at a crossroad. Both are dangerous. If I tell the truth, what I feel about the brutality, I will get killed. But if I tell a lie, I have to be careful because if it is a lie, a reliable lie, I may be safe, or I also have a good chance of being killed for telling a lie too.
ខ្ញុំក៏សម្រេចចិត្តសរសេរជារឿងខ្លីមួយក្នុងរយៈពេល15នាទីហើយខ្ញុំសរសេរហើយនឹងបានរៀបចំហាត់ជាមួយនឹងមិត្តនៅក្នុងកងជាមួយគ្នាហ្នឹងជាសិល្បករនៅសម័យនោះនៅក្រោមដើមឈើនៅវាលស្រែ
So under a tree in the countryside, I wrote a play for performance.
រៀបថ្ងៃសម្ដែងមួយថ្ងៃកម្មាភិបាលថាសូមមើលរឿង
I work with some other artists in the village, and one day before the show, the Angkar, the management of the Khmer Rouge, the village management wanted to see what our work.
រឿងអី
What play is that?
ខ្ញុំប្រាប់ថារឿងវីរៈជនកុលបុត្រការពារមាតុភូមិ
And I told them it is about the hero protecting Cambodia.
ហើយដល់ថ្ងៃសម្ដែងយើងឃើញថាថ្ងៃទី1គឺសម្បូរដោយកម្មាភិបាលគឺអ្នកដែលមានគំភ្លើងអ្នកគេមកមើលគ្រប់គ្នាគឺថ្ងៃទី1មានប្រហែលជា200នាក់
So the first day is about there are about 20 people in the audience who are in the administrator of the Khmer Rouge regime in the village.
កន្លែងដែលលេងសម្ដែងនេះគឺយើងធ្វើឆាកហើយនៅខាងក្រោមនោះសុទ្ធតែភ្នោខ្មោចប្រហែលជា500នាក់
And the land where the play was presented, we built a stage, and then the field is the place is like the cemetery, the graveyard actually.
អ្នកដែលមកមើលគឺជាឪពុកនិងម្ដាយដែលកូនបានស្លាប់ក្នុងការតស៊ូវាយជាមួយលន់នល់និងត្រូវគ្រាប់បែកអាមេរិកកាំងទម្លាក់
Almost all of the audience have the family who died in the war because of the civil war and because of the bomb dropped by the U.S. Army.
ថ្ងៃលេងទី1ប្រជាជននៅពុកម្ដាយដែលគេមកមើលនោះគឺយំទាំងអស់គ្នា
So all the audience who came to the first day show, they cried. It was very meaningful to them.
ចប់យប់ទី1ចូលដល់យប់ទី2គឺទៅលេង3យប់យប់ទី2គឺប្រជាជនមកប្រហែលជា500នាក់គឺមកបន្ថែមទៀតច្រើន
And 500 people appear on the second day.
គេល្បីថាមានល្ខោនលេងល្អមកពីទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញហើយអង្គការឲ្យលេងដល់អញ្ចឹងមនុស្សមកច្រើនមែនទែនថ្ងៃទី2គឺសភាពការរដាលគឺប្រជាជនយំព្រោះល្ខោនអញ្ចឹងនិយាយផ្ដោតធំសំខាន់គឺការស្លាប់បាត់បង់ជីវិតក្នុងសម័យតស៊ូដូច្នេះគាត់មានការលំបាកមែនទែនហើយយប់ថ្ងៃទី3មនុស្សមានរហូតដល់1000នាក់ថ្ងៃនេះមនុស្សច្រើនមែនទែនសូម្បីតែឪពុកខ្ញុំដែលគាត់នៅចាំយាមស្រូវក៏គាត់មកជាមួយដែរប៉ុន្តែថ្ងៃទី3នោះពេលដែលខ្ញុំរៀបលេងគឺអង្គការគេបានឲ្យវិទ្យាសាស្ត្រគេមកគាត់ថាអត់ឲ្យលេង stop.
So on the second day, people came and they loved the show. It was very meaningful to them. A lot of people cry because all their story are part of the play because it's about the life of the people during the war. And on the third day, 1,000 people appear. However, the play was stopped by the village government.
បន្ទាប់ពីនោះគេក៏បានប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាអ្នកឯងមិនអាចលេងបានទេព្រោះអ្នកឯងសរសេររឿងហ្នឹងធ្វើឲ្យប្រជាជនកើតទុក្ខធ្វើឲ្យប្រជាជនទន់ជ្រាយបាត់ចំហតស៊ូប្រឆាំងជាមួយចក្រពត្តិអាមេរិកតស៊ូប្រឆាំងជាមួយនឹងមូលធននិយមសក្តិភូមិ
And the reason for the stop was that they accused me of creating this play and breed the sense of the feeling of the soft emotion, it's not firm. It's very making the people feel very sensitive, not strong, and suffering, even more suffering. They are not brave against the power of the U.S.
3 ខែក្រោយពីខ្ញុំសម្ដែងខ្ញុំត្រូវគេចាប់ដាក់គុក
And after the play, I went to jail for 3 months.
ខ្ញុំគិតថាស្លាប់ប៉ុន្តែពាក្យខ្ញុំថាដូចយើងមានទឹកដោះម្ដាយថ្លៃឬក៏ដូចជាយើងធ្វើអំពើល្អយើងគ្មានគំនិតដែលប្រឆាំងជាមួយគេយើងចង់ជួយឲ្យប្រជាជនខ្មែរមានចិត្តអំពើដូចនេះមិនអញ្ចឹងទីនោះពេលនោះខ្ញុំគេយកទៅនៅក្នុងដាក់គុកនៅក្នុងវត្តដែលមានគេយាមកាម24ម៉ោងអត់ដើរចេញរួច
So I was in jail and actually it was a pagoda but it was turned into jail. And as Cambodians in Cambodian saying, the mother's meal, the mother meal is very expensive. That means my life is also expensive. I still survive.
3 ថ្ងៃបន្ទាប់គេឲ្យទាហាន 3 នាក់ទៅសួរចម្លើយខ្ញុំ
3 days after that, 3 soldiers approached me for interrogation.
គ្នាខ្ញុំ7 នាក់ដែលនៅក្រុមជាមួយគ្នាគេថាខ្ញុំជាអ្នករួមបណ្ឌិតមួយគ្នាដូចទៅគេដាក់គុកទាំងអស់ ហើយគេសួរថាអ្នកឯងសរសេរនឹងចង់បានន័យថាម៉េច
All the 7 artists involved in this work were all in jail, and they asked me, why do you write this play?
ខ្ញុំសូមសរសេររឿងពិតអំពីយុទ្ធជនយើងដែលបានស្លាប់ដោយសារយន្តហោះអាមេរិកកាំងយើងចង់ឲ្យប្រជាជនយើងចងកំហឹងប៉ុន្តែចំពោះពុកម្ដាយដែលគាត់កូនស្លាប់គាត់ទៅជាទុនជ្រាយដោយគាត់និយាយចំបេះដូងគាត់ពេកធ្វើឲ្យគាត់យំ
So I say my intention is I want to tell the true story about the current situation, the situation in Cambodia. We were in war and lots of people died because of the war and because of the bombing in the U.S.
គេអត់វាយខ្ញុំទេប៉ុន្តែគេឲ្យយើងធ្វើការជាទម្ងន់ក្រោយពី3 ខែគេបានប្រឡែងខ្ញុំមកធ្វើការជាមួយប្រជាជនធម្មតាប៉ុន្តែនៅកន្លែងធ្វើការប្រជាជនទាំងអស់និងយុទ្ធជនទាំងអស់ពេលឃើញខ្ញុំគេស្រែកថាឲ្យខ្ញុំជ្រាបឲ្យគេស្ដាប់ជឿគេស្ដាប់ប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំអត់ហ៊ានទេ
I was punished by hard labor in jail. And so when I go out into the village, the people who saw my performance, they always ask me to sing that song again, but I did not dare to.
Thank you.
And so welcome.
Chhon Sina.
សូមជំរាបសួរអរលោកទាំងអស់គ្នាខ្ញុំឈ្មោះ Chhon Sina ហើយជាគ្រូម្នាក់នៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យភូមិន្ទវិចិត្រសិល្បៈ ngày đi nhung sắp chặt mình tên đại bàn châu rùm sân sật này tình đi hai ní nhung nâng gì bị bắp start ở vậy đây ní nhung thong cắt nơi tiền bọc nhung trong prap ở lục nhẹ ngọc ní đã thà phiên lục ba bọc nhung chia sẻ trái tim muối cứ nơi bật tê bọc nhung chỉ nhẹ nhịp pôn phong chỉ nhẹ xe riêng phong hay có chỉ nhẹ đặt ngọn đường phong để chứ nít cứ chỉ riêng.
Thank you very much for coming today. And my name is Chhon Sina, a theater teacher at the Royal University of Fine Art in Cambodia, and I have a great opportunity to share with you all. In Cambodia, I am a theater artist. I am a playwright, director, and actor myself. So this is a tough job for me to do 3 things at the same time.
Ngày nay cái nhung trong về pi con nhung đời xa ở nơi bậc tây con nhung chìm núi sậy, bàn tay dương lên không sờ lấp cái ác sơ ở trong lại dương chìm núi sậy vậy, nhung ban thì quân rương tràn na nơi không sờ lá, bàn tay rương ông này dương ban chạy sai từ hàng cài tê nhung miền sật trầm tài ở từ xe rươngนึง ให้ ở con sật nhung bờ long vô chỉ nhạc bạc, anh นึง ให้ để thưa ở nhung ở miền rong muối tháp pe class nhung hát đôi chợ trong việc chụp càng nghiệp của nhung bàn tay nhung miền rong muối tháp nhung trai tại vừa vậy để nhung chấm sầm rạp luôn nhung hay sầm rạp sờ bọt nhung.
So as a female artist in Cambodia, it's not easy. I have an inspiration to become a playwright, so I wrote lots of plays, and these are the plays that I wrote. But working in an institution or in a society that is led by men, it's kind of hard to receive the recognition from all of them. And there are lots of time that I want to quit, but it's just like this undying interest in the work. I just keep doing it.
Nhung miền ca tôi chất đại xa được nông sản bao nhung được về để nhung thưa sản đại chọc hay bằng 2 ai tu sĩ mình ban bằng 2 tu sĩ cho nên dân ban con tay bằng 2 sạch được nông sản bao nhung đến hay miền kêu một chuyện đơn cái thằng sản đại bao Sina nó là ơi ai sọc sai đo ơi bị chia chân khang khẽ mưa ba này bàn tay có lọ máu được về để miền ca nghe được nông sản chân tới kia ở đây ở cầu sạch nên mà ao khi nhung mình chơi sản đại bao nhung mấy cái trường tại vô bộ kề bàn tay ní chia sản đại chia chất bao nhung nhưng mình khoa vì quốc kế nhung khoa ta thưa ấy xem đẹp luôn nhung hay thưa ấy xem đẹp concept bao nhung.
So when I wrote my play and I presented it at my theater institution, the thing that I heard is that your work is good and that's all. And when there are opportunity that play should be presented, my work is not really on the top of the list. So I don't really have a chance to really present my work to the public. In spite of this encouragement, I keep trying writing play and I keep creating work. At least I can use the work to work with my student.
Hay ní nhung trong trường hợp ở lúc đó ní chia sẻ đại trong cài bọc nhung hay nhung ban thọ thưa ca cho người Catherine tăngពីឆ្នាំ2003nhưng ban thưaថ្នាក់ដៃជាមួយគ្នាហើយដល់ឆ្នាំ2008ខ្ញុំមានអង្គការអមតៈសិល្បៈគាត់ផ្ដល់លទ្ធភាពខ្ញុំឲ្យថវិកាខ្ញុំអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំបានយករឿងនេះឯងបានឡើងលើឆាកនៅក្នុងសាកលវិទ្យាល័យខ្ញុំហើយក្នុងនោះយើងបានអញ្ជើញគណៈក្នុងឋានៈជាក្រសួងគាត់បានមកមើលដែរហើយគាត់អ្នកក្រសួងហ្នឹងគាត់ចាប់អារម្មណ៍ថារឿងរបស់អាសនាឯងហ្នឹងអាចសុខស្សាយបានហើយប៉ុន្តែកន្លងមកដល់ឥឡូវរឿងរបស់ខ្ញុំនៅតែដដែលយើងអត់មានលទ្ធភាពបញ្ចេញទៅខាងក្រៅ
So among all the play, I have this one. The title is Friend Jeepney. I had an opportunity to work with Catherine Filloux, who came to Cambodia, and we sit together and further develop the play. This is the play that I also get a grant from Amrita Performing Art, which is a U.S. U.S. organization based in Cambodia. They gave me the grant, and I could present it at the Royal University of Fine Arts. And so these are the way that I have to work hard in order to make my work possible.
ប៉ុន្តែថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំមានកិត្តិយសដោយសារ Catherine បានយករឿងរបស់ខ្ញុំនឹងមកទីនេះហើយកាលថ្ងៃ21និង22យើងបានធ្វើការជាមួយនឹងនិស្សិតនៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Swatham ចាខ្ញុំបានយើងបានធ្វើការនៅទីនេះខ្ញុំ ខ្ញុំមកដល់ទីនេះឃើញតែខ្ញុំជាខ្មែរហើយខ្ញុំអត់ចេះស្ដាប់ភាសារបស់បរទេសទេប៉ុន្តែឲ្យនៅពេលដែលខ្ញុំឮគាត់និយាយហើយខ្ញុំឃើញសកម្មភាពរបស់គាត់ខ្ញុំគិតថាខ្ញុំមានក្តីសង្ឃឹមមួយទៅលើការងារដែលគាត់ធ្វើនៅក្នុងរឿងរបស់ខ្ញុំហ្នឹងណា
And I work with Catherine, and I had an opportunity to come to the US for this conference. Before this conference, we have some other educational program at the Fordham University, and there is a play reading workshop. My play translated into English and was read by the professional actor and student actor at Fordham University. They read in English, and I know only a few words in English, but I can feel the energy, I can feel the dynamic of my play, and this is nothing but an incredible hope for me.
ហើយខ្ញុំក៏សូមអរគុណ Catherine ហើយនឹងអរគុណដល់
Don Saito directed.
ដែលគាត់ជាជនជាតិជប៉ុនហ្នឹងគាត់បានដឹកនាំរឿងខ្ញុំពេញចិត្តសប្បាយមែនសប្បាយចិត្តមែនតើ
And many thanks to Catherine Filloux who helped me with that, and the Japanese artist in residence at the Fordham University, Don Saito.
ហើយខ្ញុំចង់និយាយពីបទពិសោធន៍ដែលខ្ញុំបានធ្វើការជាមួយនឹងអ្នកស្រីអាម៉ារីគាត់ជាជនជាតិហូឡង់គាត់បានទៅធ្វើការនៅប្រទេសរបស់ខ្ញុំគាត់ចង់និយាយពីរឿងប៉ុលពតអញ្ចឹងនៅពេលដែលគាត់ទៅគាត់តែងនាំគ្នាសួរពីសិល្បករទាំងអស់ថាអ្នកឯងជួយនិយាយពីរឿងរ៉ាវដែលអ្នកឯងឆ្លងកាត់នៅជំនាន់ប៉ុលពតហ្នឹងឲ្យគាត់ស្ដាប់មកហើយខ្ញុំគិតថាខ្ញុំអត់មានអារម្មណ៍ចង់និយាយដោយសារខ្ញុំមិនចង់រំលឹករឿងរ៉ាវនឹងកើតឡើងមកទៀតទេពេលដែលខ្ញុំនិយាយគឺខ្ញុំយំអញ្ចឹងហើយអានេះហើយជាអារម្មណ៍មួយដែលខ្ញុំមានការតាំងតឹងមែនទេនៅពេលដែលនិយាយរឿងរ៉ាវរបស់ខ្លួន
Let me share you another experience in another my acting experience. There is a Dutch director coming to Cambodia and develop a play related to the genocide regime. And she come to meet the artist and ask the artist their true story during the Khmer regime. She asked me about the story. I did not want to talk about it because it's so painful to talk about it again.
នៅក្នុងរឿងតម្លាភាពស្ងប់ស្ងាត់ហ្នឹងគឺមានរឿងពិតសម្រាប់រឿងខ្ញុំតែម្ដងគឺដោយសារឪពុកខ្ញុំស្លាប់នៅក្នុងជំនាន់ប៉ុលពតអញ្ចឹងឲ្យខ្ញុំនិយាយរឿងរបស់ខ្ញុំផ្ទាល់ដែលឪពុកខ្ញុំស្លាប់នៅក្នុងជំនាន់ប៉ុលខ្ញុំមានការលំបាកប៉ុន្តែគាត់បានលួងលោមចិត្តខ្ញុំថាស៊ីណាត្រូវតែចូលរួមក្នុងការនិយាយរឿងការពិតរបស់ខ្លួនហ្នឹងដើម្បីចែកចាយឲ្យអ្នកដទៃគាត់បានដឹងពីរឿងរ៉ាវរបស់យើងផង
So I myself lost my father during the regime, so it was very painful. And to me, it was very, very difficult to talk about it, and I did not want to talk about it. Through a lot of dialogue with her, I contributed my story into her play, which is entitled Breaking the Silence. And I believe that it was very helpful when I tell the story, it was very helpful to other people who come to see my play.
ហើយខ្ញុំចង់ជំរាបអរលោកដែរថ្ងៃខ្ញុំបានចុះទៅសាយគ្រាជាមួយអ្នកគ្រូថ្ងៃហ្នឹងគឺភ័យមែនតើដោយសារយើងជាសិល្បករហើយយើងទៅសម្ភាសជនដែលគាត់ប្រព្រឹត្តនៅអំពើអក្រិតហ្នឹងនៅទល់មុខគ្នាអញ្ចឹងហើយយើងចង់ដឹងថាឲ្យគាត់នឹងនិយាយការពិតឲ្យយើងមកដើម្បីឲ្យយើងយកមកសរសេរជារឿងនេះយើងបានទៅបកកាត់គេប៉ុន្តែពេលហ្នឹងនៅពេលដែលយើងផ្ដើមសំណួរហ្នឹងធ្វើឲ្យគាត់ហ្នឹងមានកំហឹងទូឡើងយ៉ាងហ្នឹងខ្ញុំកាន់ភ័យដែរពួកអីនឹកឃើញថាគាត់នៅអាសារធាតុជាប៉ុលពតឡើយហ្នឹងណាចាយើងធ្វើឲ្យយើងភ័យ
Before the creation of the work, I was part of the research. We went to the village where the real killer during the Khmer who are still alive live there, and we went to visit them and we asked them questions and we interviewed them. And during the interview, we tried to really keep it very good, but the tension did happen. Some kind of angry behavior was caused by the killer himself, and we did try. It was very tough at that time, and we tried very hard to really keep everything calm down.
ហើយនៅពេលដែលយើងបានព័ត៌មានហ្នឹងហើយអ្នកគ្រូក៏កាត់សរសេររឿងហ្នឹងឡើងហើយសរសេរហ្នឹងគាត់ឲ្យខ្ញុំដើរតួហ្នឹងដើរតួជនអក្រិតដែលដៃដល់ហ្នឹងតែខ្ញុំស្រីទេប៉ុន្តែតួហ្នឹងតួនឹងប្រុសអញ្ចឹងហើយថ្ងៃមួយខ្ញុំលេងនៅកំពង់ចាមមានប្រតិកម្មវិជាជនយ៉ាងច្រើនគាត់ថាវាយវាទៅអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំនៅលើឆាកខ្ញុំភ័យថាខ្ញុំគ្រាន់តែខ្ញុំនឹងចិត្តថាខ្ញុំលេងរឿងនេះ So
when at the creation of the plays, the director added that part of the story that the killer himself talk about his story why he killed, and I was assigned to be acting as a killer, and we presented to the provinces across the country, and the audience was very close. We were sitting on the half a meter stage, and the audience was sitting in front of us, very intimate to the stage, and I was acting that. And there are lots of people who got angry with me during the performance, and they were like, some people were yelling like, go onto the stage and like hit the killer. So I was very worried at that time.
ខ្ញុំសូមបន្ថែមបន្តិចទៀតដែរហើយខ្ញុំប្រាប់អ្នកគ្រូថាខ្ញុំឈប់លេងហើយព្រោះខ្ញុំខ្លាចប្រជាជននឹងគប់អីមកលើខ្ញុំហើយគាត់បានប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាស៊ីណានឹងហើយជាការផ្សារភ្ជាប់រវាងយើងអ្នកសម្ដែងហើយនឹងទស្សនិកជនអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំនឹងសាកបងទៀតបើសិនជាមានរឿងហ្នឹងហើយខ្ញុំរត់ចុះពីលើឆាកហ្នឹងដែរ
So I told my director, director, this is very dangerous for me. What happened is someone really got on stage, and then she tried to calm me down and say, you know, this is what this is reconciliation. This is healing to them. You are helping everybody to heal, so this is good. And then she feel good about I feel good about that. But at the same time, I was also always ready. If something wrong, I would just run away. So thank you very much.
Pauline Ross.
Good morning, everyone, and thank La Mama and Theatre Without Borders for the invitation to come. I've had a long association with Eric and the Arts in One World conference, and it is informing my work at home, and I hope maybe by sharing some of our work with you, there's greater connections. I started the Playhouse in 1992. It was before we had any ceasefires or peace accords or Good Friday agreements, primarily because I felt the need that culture needed to be democratized. As the eldest of a large family with a father who never knew work, unemployment was endemic, 80% in some social housing areas at that time. And what Dr. Barbara talked about this morning so articulately, it's things just vibrate deep within your soul. When she talked about the great hunger, the famine, and now some people talk about it as a genocide when we lost half of our population from 8 million to 4 million. At 15, I had to leave school to get employment, and I was at one stage considering of how can I change my name, because I have a very Catholic Irish name called McLaughlin, and my address was a giveaway. But in Northern Ireland, you know, everyone believes that you can tell if you're Catholic or Protestant, you know, if your eyes are too close together or something like that. So anyway, eventually I got a job with the credit union movement, and that was a great awareness raiser that when people had control of their money, particularly poor people who were on social benefits, that they could become empowered because they could control their little or very little finances because they couldn't get bank accounts. And then when my children went to school, I thought, well, I have to go to school because I love performance and dance and poetry and music all my life. My parents loved it, appreciated it. It was a poor household, but very rich in our cultural traditions. And when I left university with this great piece of paper, I thought I need to do something. And so I started the Playhouse. And the Playhouse was set up to create a space, a safe space, an environment that was on a neutral site within the historic walled city that both traditions, Unionist, Nationalist, Republican, Catholic, Protestant, would come to. And the idea was to create an art for all, art for the many and not the few, but that it would be also educational and there would be training provided. And because of our history and because of the current situation, it is much better for us if we invite international artists to come and work with our two communities, because at times, if you were to take a writer or theatre director or performer from one community into another, baggage comes with them, and even if the baggage is not there, it could be perceived to be there, and so you're off to a non-starter. And that's why we have developed over the years an international networking program, and have had the privilege to bring some great artists to work with our communities. What I wanted to talk about today is one of those residencies, which is by the Theatre of Witness founder and director, Thea Sepanak, who operates in Philadelphia. Thea is in residence with us for 2 years. The first year is over. Her project was We Carried Your Secrets. Again, Barbara talked about how that secrets can create an impact on a person, not only a person, but communities, physical and mental health. So We Carried Our Secrets was a project that worked with fathers who fought on the front lines. Now, my city, we call it Derry, London Derry, because of the London Derry connections, is small. It's a population of about 110,000 people. When you live as long as I've lived, you practically know everybody, which is handy at times when you have to make a call. So I grew up with the situation. I was 16 when, in 1968, when our awareness was raised about our civil and human rights being denied us. And it was, I suppose, a comfort to see what was happening in New York, in Czechoslovakia, in Paris, and that it was part of a global consciousness at the time. 35, 40 years later, we are now dealing with the past, and that's the biggest, most complex issue for a small community like Northern Ireland, with maybe 1.25 million people to deal with. When people live cheek by jowl, then through the period of the conflict, communities get segregated. We have 96% segregated social housing. We have 94% segregated education system. So it's very, very difficult for one side or the other to get together to meet. So the intention of the Playhouse, and although it carries all the connotations of theatre and Shakespeare, it's really more about a bit of light relief, about play and creativity, and the need for play and creativity in all our lives, from the creche through to our seniors. So Thea, with practically knowing everybody in the city, I introduced her to all the different communities, to community leaders, to peace builders, to ex-combatants, to police officers, and eventually we got 7 stories from across the conflict. Now, it's called We Carried Your Secrets because you cannot fight a successful urban guerrilla warfare without secrecy, and it is essentially a war of intelligence. So there's a saying in Northern Ireland, whatever you say nothing. So it was difficult to extract the stories because I wasn't putting the Playhouse up to be an arm of the MI5 or the Special Branch or the police. It wasn't about who did what to whom, when and where. This was about the aftermath of the conflict and how to deal with that hurt that Barbara talked about. And that hurt is still in a very precarious situation. And there are those within our community who want to restart it. We had a £200 bomb go off 3-4 weeks ago, and deliberately the bombers gave the wrong time. They said it was going to go off in 40 minutes. In fact, it went off in 20 because their target was the police service. And because the police service, there is a continuous death threat to serving police officers now. And with the Patent Commission that completely changed our police service, Catholics are now joining up, and women are joining up. So within the 7 stories, we have a story of a police officer. And because that police officer was present at all the interviews and all the discussions, and then the rehearsals, we had to employ security. And we had to change rehearsal rooms and spaces. We just didn't use the playhouse. So that adds a different dimension to a production, because lives are the most important thing. And we couldn't employ or couldn't ask the police force to do it. So I had to go to ex-combatants, because who better to know dissident Republicans who want to kill the police officers than former comrades. And that was all done extremely subtly. And thankfully, there was no attacks. The series of stories this year is called I Once Knew a Girl, and that's the stories of women who lived through the conflict, the unheard stories of women. And again, we have a serving police officer, and we have got the same situation. It's a bit more serious now, because the dissidents targets, the last targets, they want to target Catholic police officers. So if you were to get a Catholic police officer and a woman at the one time, well, I suppose that would be a mission completed for them. So we have used, it's quite ironic, we are using a decommissioned, the British Army headquarters in our city, because they have 24-hour security. But that is undergoing a transformation. And we've just been awarded the UK City of Culture, the first ever. And that is creating debate and discussion, because there are people who do not want any association with Britain or the UK. But for practitioners like ourselves and trying to move forward, we think it's a tremendous opportunity to show the world who we are, what we are, and especially to show ourselves that we're better than who we think we are, and using culture and the arts to do that. But we had an incident last week at the rehearsal, because it's a building site daytime. A couple of workmen came into the room, and Maria, the police officer, had arrived in uniform, and there was this sense of fear. And one of the workmen started texting, and all the group, all the women felt under threat, so we've had to move location. But it is about truth recovery. All the stories are very truthful. And again, when Barbara talked this morning about the transformation of people and communities and of space, when we took that performance right across Northern Ireland to community halls, to theatres, to the universities, the audience wouldn't leave the theatre. It was like it opened up this safe space where people could talk, could cry, and comfort each other, and asked questions of the actors. I can't really call them actors, although they acted. They are the carriers of their own stories. They are not actors. They are people who, through this process of theatre witness, go on stage and tell their story. And the Women's Project is about to be premiered now on the 22nd of October. We made a documentary film, and I've brought some copies, and I'll give them to Catherine, and she can decide what, with airlines now and baggage weight, I couldn't bring a whole lot, but I brought some. That's just one project. So we are not forgetting about our local writers and artists. This is just one element, the international element of our programming. I'm currently working with an ex-combatant on a play, and I found this on a trip to South Africa in February, when community leaders went out to find out, did a Truth Commission work there? What is happening? What's happening with the ANC and the ex-combatants there? And sadly, our two situations are very similar, having spoke to ANC ex-combatants, and they felt that they've been left out in the cold. There is resources and finances, and nobody's releasing them to them. as if they don't matter anymore. We have ex-combatants who, you know, for 30, 35 years, it was their job to get up in the morning and plan attacks. And suddenly they says, right, put your weapons down, we're now in a peace process. And it's like forced retirement. You know, what do you do? And we have several initiatives set up, one dealing with the past, the other is our Victims and Survivors Commission. And again, very similar to South Africa, it has run into controversy because one of the dealing with the past was that they would give every victim and survivor £12,000. And it just created such a controversy that this bland thing. So dealing with the past is complex, complicated, but using theatre and using the arts is a very safe way. It creates empathy. These 7 individuals would never, ever, the men, have been in a room together. They wouldn't go into a room together. We have a young man whose father was murdered by a paramilitary organisation in collusion with the police force. He hates cops, he hates police. Robin now is like a father to him. We have a quartermaster of the Ulster Defence Association who was a bomb maker. He and the IRA volunteer are buddies, and what this has done, because it has been cathartic for them, because they have transformed, they now, and we have had meetings with our Department of Foreign Affairs in Dublin, these men want to go into our schools and into our communities and into our areas where, and this is no accident, that where dissident activity is happening is in communities where there's poverty, there's deprivation, there is a lack and a poverty of aspiration, and the young people a lot of young people are just wanting to get stuck in. They did a survey in North Belfast a couple of years ago, and there's 3 common denominators that they come up with these young people, and we're talking 13, 14 and 15 years of age, was lack of self-esteem, lack of formal education, and like a jealousy of their fathers who had the opportunity to fight a war that they're not getting a chance to get stuck in, and they are just ready to go. And like Barbara was saying, you know, this thing has been going on for 700 years, and when the bomb went off the other week in our city, there was a bomb in the bridge that brought our city to a standstill for 10 hours. Children couldn't get lifted from school, people couldn't get to hospitals for appointments, and it was that deja vu. Are we going back to this? And everybody was saying, never. So we have to fight, we'll take to the streets again if necessary. So the new commission by this ex-combatant is the voice of those combatants who are in agreement with the peace process, but who feel they've been left out of it. They're not included. And the Playhouse is a place where writers and artists and poets can come, share their work, and we've just discovered a connection here between Kabul and Derry. So, but thank you, and I'll talk to anybody if they want to chat.
Thanks so much. Wonderful, thank you. Hjalmar-Jorge Joffre-Eichhorn.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me to share the work we're doing in Afghanistan. I prepared a couple of pictures to show you just to prepare the presentation, but that's the wrong pictures.
It doesn't matter about this theatre.
Those are the ones that are coming up now, so maybe we can just take a minute to look at the pictures before I start talking. I think it's the upper right-hand corner. never been to New York. Famous actor. Those are some of the venues where we perform. I try to give a bit of an overview of the different issues and you know, the context we're working in. I think that was the first one. Yeah, last picture now. Yeah, that's a former Soviet-built building that has been shelled. Basically, the majority of pictures are from Kabul, but a couple were from Bamiyan province. We have seen this one. Maybe you can stay for this for a second on this picture, because it's the old Kabul theater. There was a wonderful building reasonably close to the center of Kabul that was totally destroyed during the Civil War at the beginning of the 90s, and that is now a abandoned building that sometimes we visit to do rehearsals and hopefully have a performance there in the near future. Before I start, I would like to briefly recognize or acknowledge two people that are very important to me and that I think deserve to be mentioned as part of this presentation and this wonderful event. One person is Salim, a man who 2.5 years ago joined us as a technician for a project, and who was very much unwilling for the first 2 days or 3 days of our being together to engage with theater whatsoever. He would not want to participate in any exercises, any warm-ups. He just wanted to be a technician, and then eventually he started working with the methodology, and he took part in some of the exercises, and he fell in love with the methodologies that we work with, and he started to ever so slowly work as an actor. And he's now one of the most beautifully engaged theater practitioners in Afghanistan. And he was supposed to come to this conference, and unfortunately he was denied his visa by the US Embassy after 8 months of applying for the visa, and after they had told him and asked him to come to the embassy to pick up the visa, and when he went there they said there's nothing they could do for him, and the visa was not available, and he should get lost and apply again. So he was supposed to be here and speak in his own voice. And then I would like to acknowledge a good friend, Shikib, who was part of that original theater project that we started 2.5 years ago, and who went into self-exile as a result of the violence that he received for participating in this work. I'd just like to acknowledge the two of them. Basically, the work we are doing right now, we're doing work for an organization called the Afghanistan Human Rights and Democracy Organization, AHRDO, and the organization came about as a result of a participatory theater project, a Theater of the Oppressed Forum theater project that we did with a group of organized victims of war, of the different conflicts over the past 30 years in Afghanistan. And my colleague, an Afghan colleague at that time, and when we started the project, he said, this methodology will never work. I cannot imagine my fellow Afghan men and women to do this work. And then we embarked on a 15-day Theater of the Oppressed workshop, and at the end of which he came to me and said, this is the most amazing methodology that I've ever witnessed, and I would love to start working with it. Can we try to maybe set up an Afghan platform that dedicates itself only to working with different theater methodologies? And that's how the organization AHRDO came about, and it's now been running for roughly 1.5 years, working with different theater methodologies with the objective to deal with 30 years of conflict in Afghanistan, with a focus on using participatory methodologies such as playback theater and forum theater and different techniques of the theater of the oppressed, but also more conventional theater plays like the play that we have in common, which is AH6905, which is an Irish, Northern Irish play that we have adapted to the Afghan context. So it's an organization that has established itself out of a desire to use the arts and especially theater to deal with very, very sensitive issues in what is not an aftermath of conflict. Unfortunately, the killings continue and it's getting worse by the minute. The next little anecdote I would like to share that came as a result of the foundation of this organization is a little workshop where there was a woman who participated in the work and ended up being beaten up by her husband because she left the house in order to participate in the workshop without letting him know that she would do that. And he caught her doing that and beat her up brutally so that she couldn't come back the next day. And then 2 days later she came back because she said this was the most free that she ever felt in her life. And it's a space of freedom that even though she was punished for it by, in this case, her husband, she would not want to miss out on engaging and feeling free and empowered, and that's the word she used, as part of this theater work. So basically, yeah, the work we're doing is with victims groups. It's with women mainly. There's a red thread here. It's sometimes in abandoned buildings and it's destroyed buildings, and we try to paraphrase Augusto Boal, to use the theater to analyze the past and the context of the future in order to create, in the context of the presence, in order to create a safer and more beautiful future in Afghanistan. And so basically we use three methodologies. We use playback theater, and we have the co-founder of Playback Theater here, Jo Salas, and she will speak about playback on Sunday. But we use playback theater to offer space for victims of war, and mainly women, widows, to tell their stories. And use it as a documentation mechanism, because after 30 years of war, unfortunately, and also due to the fact that some of the warlords are still in power today and have actually been brought to power by the West, deny any right to deal with the past in any way. So there has not been any legitimate and then regular and systematic documentation of what happened. And we use playback theater to do that, and at the same time try to create a space for healing by creating space where people can tell their stories. We work with the present using the play AH6905, which we call AH7808, covering the 30 years of conflict in Afghanistan, in order to create a space to talk about what to do with the past, to start inventing or sharing ways where people can make an informed decision of how they would like to deal with the past as a result of post-performance discussions that we have as a result of this very powerful play. And then we use forum theater to look into the future, to create a space where victims of war, in this case, can mobilize and empower themselves to start implementing these ideas that came up out of the discussions that we had during the performances, as well as doing the theater work with theater as a process, as a result of the theater of the oppressed methodology and work that we're doing. And the idea is to look into the future and to really find ways for people to create a vision of positive peace as opposed to negative peace and the absence of violence, but to actually create an Afghanistan, a vision of an Afghanistan as part of the theater work we're doing that does justice to not only the absence of violence, but a more beautiful and more just and more collaborative context and way of living together. And I know time is up, so let's just finish with a small anecdote that this organization that we've set up has managed incredibly to send 3 people to Rwanda this year. We talked about Rwanda before this morning, where they and myself facilitated a series of playback theater workshops with survivors of the genocide. And it was the most incredible experience, I think, on many different levels. But I think one beautiful thing is that a group of Afghan men, in this case, who are usually perceived as, I suppose, as the victims or the recipients of peace-building initiative by others, have actually gone to another country to share what they know and what they do in order to create perhaps a southern to south-to-south dialogue that was incredibly beautiful and empowering, I think, for many of us. And it was just wonderful to see that opportunity for 3 African people to do this in a context that is not their own, and it was an amazing experience. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
William Yellow Robe Jr.
I would like to begin by the way of our people, which we always state this when we speak in public. It's an honor to be here today with you, to share my breath with you. I also want to share a thank you to the native tribes of New York who sacrificed their lives for this city to be made, for this state to be made, and for this country to exist. We have been attacked by this country, and ironically, we fought for this country. Native issues, as far as recovery, comes from a duality. In other words, recovery signifies that something has begun and has come to a completion. Within native tribes of the Americas, recovery has not even started. The wars still continue in small areas. I heard Alaska mentioned this morning. There's a cause right now as I speak to address the fact that Native women in Alaska who are arrested are raped and nothing's done. In the eastern provinces of Canada, Native women who are arrested are raped within the jail system and nothing is being addressed. I'm a member of Red Eagle Soaring Theater Company of the Advisory Board. 2 weeks ago, a native woodcarver from the Salish tribe was shot and killed by the Seattle Police Department because they thought he had a dangerous weapon. What that means is not the tragedy of a young artist, but it means an art form for these people is now dwindling. That voice has been taken away. Now when I say breath, that's part of the recovery. Breath is sacred, it is a part of life, it is a part of most native ceremonies. It's part of the healing process. I find it ironic that I'm here talking about recovery since myself I am in recovery. I have gone through the process of reservation violence and also with the diabetes and heart ailments. So I am a survivor. But it was so interesting that being that I was in a hospital, not only did I have to overcome the disease, the physical disease, I still had to overcome the social disease of America known as racism within a hospital. We still have a lot to do as far as recovery, but here's the thing about Native people. For the Native tribes, why do we not hold our anger? Because if you hang onto anger, you can't heal. You have to let go of the anger. You have to sacrifice something of yourself for the healing process to begin. And sometimes that is the hate. Hate is a luxury Native people cannot afford to have today. There are too many people out there who practice it willingly against us. And we know that. But I also want to address another issue about human rights. Theater is a human right. It's a right for me to express my breath. Native people recently, in 1995, had an Indian Arts and Crafts bill passed by Congress that protected sacred objects and artwork that was produced by non-natives for commercial use only. And now there's a move to apply it to literature as well. This design on my shirt is a star quilt design. It was made by my sister, who learned it from my mother. The reason why we use the star quilt is that when the Christians came to us, they said, you can't do your artwork because it's heathen. So they took us to the church and they taught the women how to make quilts. They could no longer do the quilt work or beadwork, so they did quilts. It was in the quilts that the Native women kept the culture alive politically, socially, and culturally, underneath the noses of the Christians and the federal government. So this design was given to me by my sister, but that's how our art survives. Now we're into theater. What does theater mean to us? First of all, it's a colonial art form. We have to learn a way of making it work with us. We are not here to serve theater. We are tired of serving this country. We are tired of serving things that have nothing to do with us. We are in a war right now. When I was in South Dakota during a celebration, they did the honor song for the warriors. Vietnam vets, Korean War, World War II, Persian Gulf, Iraq. We're indigenous people fighting indigenous people. How wrong is that? But that's the duality of this country. Now we're talking about theater. There has always been a native expression within the theater, but we've always been props or set pieces. We've been the excuse for your expression. Arthur Kopek's Indians, where he writes about Vietnam, but he uses Native Americans to make that expression. In a book called Plain Indian by Philip Deloria Jr., the American Revolution begins not as patriots, white patriots, going out and challenging the British government. They hid themselves as Native Americans because they didn't have the courage to confront their oppressors, so they used us as a disguise. But see, in Native theater, we can't do that anymore. Our breath is limited. Our breath belongs to our community, it belongs to our ancestors, it belongs to the children that are coming up. But here's the other thing about this breath. It is not exclusive. It is very inclusive. People ask me, when you do Native theater, are you saying that non-Native theaters, non-Native people can't participate? No. I am not saying it. I'm saying they can't control it anymore. In other words, it's wonderful that large theater companies will open their doors and do work by Native people, but we will not be blackmailed. Just because you have the finances, just because you have the resources, we will not be blackmailed ever again, so that we'll have to change our play to make it into a sociology book or a history book. Those days of apologizing for our survival are done. We use theater as a human right to celebrate ourselves, to celebrate life. And there are good things in this world to celebrate. But we also celebrate our relations, our relatives, those who are the four-legged, the winged, and even the ground itself. People ask me, what is a Native theater? It could be anything. It could be a park. What is a Native church? It could be a river. It could be the Black Hills. It could be these other things that you don't have as far as an architectural structure that tells you it's Native theater. But as I go on, what I'm learning now to talk about this topic with you, there's so much to be addressed socially, culturally, politically, and there are some good things that I want to address too. Before I go on, as far as the human rights, Project Hoop, led by Hene Gigama, a Kiowa, out of UCLA, has now pushed forward the agenda for a Native American Playwrights Guild for the first time in this country. He is also publishing work by Native playwrights, a first time in this country. To give you an example, this book was published by Project Hoop. Why is this book significant? I am the only Native American playwright in America who's had a book, 2 books, published by a mainstream publication based on his work in this country. Isn't that sad? But this is America, and that's the reality. But let me go on. Hene has also produced the Native American Theater Arts Association, a coalition to bring Native art organizations together so that, again, they'll have a voice. The other thing I want to address in conclusion, since I'm running out of time here, when you say theater, you have to remember one thing: whose voice are you working with? Whose voice are you willing to carry? Whose voice are you going to share? Because one of the things about theater, the reason why I did theater is because from my family line, I come from a family line that fought, a lot of my ancestors fought the United States government for freedom. A lot of my cousins, uncles, grew up to be warriors. They fought in almost every war for and by this country. And they carried a burden and they were never thanked. But most importantly is this. Theater is the only peaceful means for us, for my tribe, to attack and change colonization of our people without bloodshed. Now people will say, why are you saying that? There are a lot of activities out west and even here on the East Coast that happen. Even the city of New York, Mayor Bloomberg was attacked by the natives. He did some very racist statements on TV. The state of New York went after the Seneca tribe, addressing their sovereignty. That was never addressed. But see, it's an ongoing battlefield, but there needs to be a time when we all share a breath and maybe, hopefully, a time of peace. And one other positive note, Barack Obama. In the old days, we used to say to the peace negotiations that came to us, we would say, go back and tell the great white father. We no longer have to do that. Go back and tell the brother. But here's what Barack Obama has done for us. He has signed the Indigenous Bill of Rights. He has gathered all 500 nations, representatives, and brought them to Washington, D.C. The first time a United States president has ever done this in this country. There is a chance for peace. There is a chance for hope. It's called theater. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. Comments from you, please, as many as possible. So keep it brief so we can get as many people to talk. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a question for the first gentleman. I'm thinking about this saying that you said, the mother's breast milk is expensive. And when you told your story, the saying that came up for me that I use a lot is, no good deed goes unpunished. And so I'm wondering, having gone through your experience, if there's anything you would have done differently.
Great.
Meaning that he tried to do a good deed and he was punished for trying to help. So would he still go about helping in the same way? Is there something that he would do different?
When they made the accusation on me, I still believe that what I did was right. However, at that time, at the interrogation, it was done at a gunpoint, and they also have knife. So I just, though I don't change my mindset, but I just say yes to whatever they say at that time, just for safety. So if I get killed because of that, it may not be just me, it's going to be my whole family too. And at that time, I was thinking that I believe that this work is really good work, and I want to present it. I want to show it to the people, and if I really have a freedom one day, and I will do it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for a wonderful panel. I have a question for the gentleman from Afghanistan. We have right now, from Washington, D.C., we have a cycle of plays called The Great Game about the history of Afghanistan, put on by a British theater company, and I thought that was such a great thing until I heard you speak, and now I'm sort of horrified that they're in Washington and your colleague is not allowed to be here, and we have to figure out a way to get your company with him to Washington. Nothing disparaging for the British company, they're wonderful, but this strikes me as a very bizarre skewing of priorities. And I wanted to ask you a little more about how your company operates. And who do you get, how do people find out about you like this? And I want to know what's happened to this poor woman. Has anyone done anything to her husband? Does she keep coming? But I mean, how does someone like that find out about you? How do they stay with you? What are the ages? What are the gender? Where's the financial support coming from? How'd you get to Rwanda? Please tell me you have some support from the U.S. government. Okay, all right. But so who is supporting you, and you know what's your relationship with the local governments, and what parts of Afghanistan can you work in?
Several questions in one, of course. Basically what we decided together with a group of Afghan colleagues, men and women, and probably I should stress that the organization that we set up together is an organization that represents different ages, has more or less a gender balance, and also represents the different ethnicities of Afghanistan. So it's a very unique organization in that sense, because it does unite or assemble different difficulties and elements that are making peace building in Afghanistan very, very difficult, independent of any foreign intervention or foreign presence in the country. We work with non-professional actors. I mean, I do think that originally the work that we started was inspired by the theater of the oppressed and eventually playback theater, so community-based theater approaches that work with ordinary men and women that want to democratize the theater, and that has a very clear political content and objective, and obviously tries to be as aesthetic as possible, but the focus is on politics and social change and peace building and conflict transformation. And so from the beginning our hope was really to provide a space for normal Afghan men and women and youth and older people to use the theater as a vehicle and maybe as a way of life to work towards change in Afghanistan, and the change that they really desire to be the change that the country needs. And so basically we're trying to involve as many grassroots organizations as possible. There is women's organization, there is organized victims group that usually operate in secret. It's interesting, there's many red threads here. We talked about secrecy, we talked about working with women, about getting voices out, about being punished for good deeds perhaps, and I think basically there's something, there's many connections here which is very interesting for me. So, there's many organized groups that are organized officially but unofficially don't exist, or officially don't exist but unofficially are very well organized, and so we're trying to contact them. It's really part of the work, to really try to meet people and offer this tool originally, and you can imagine how many people probably generally look at you as if you come from out of space, because of course if you talk to victims group whose main claim is to, justice in terms of putting perpetrators into jail, and then you come and offer them theater, usually the first reaction is rather, it's silence actually, so again, there's a longer story, but I mean, basically it's part of the work. So we really go out there, we go into the communities, we meet people, we explain the methodology, we really take time doing this. We usually try to do justice to ethnicity and gender, so if we know we work with women, we send women, of course, and we send women who represent the ethnicity that they're probably going to work with, because especially in Kabul, neighborhoods are pretty much divided by ethnicity still. And so it's really part of the work is everything. It's the prologue and the epilogue of the actual theater work. So the theater work becomes part of a much bigger endeavor, which is trying to get communities engaged as much as possible.
Thank you. How about up there?
I have worked in Afghanistan, that's why I'm interested in talking about it. I come from northern part of Pakistan. When you said she was beaten, it reminded me of my experience. I used to have that kind of environment, but what helped me was the general manager. He was also an American, Jonathan Mitchell. He came and then he talked to me and then he listened to me and then he sent somebody to my husband to talk to him. The problem in our areas is what happens. People create rumors and make stories. That kills us. We don't do anything, even then they talk about us. So what helps is the organizational help helps us to move ahead and fight with the society. So maybe my learning is maybe you play a mentoring role in sending women to different places and develop their confidence. So when we get exposure, we feel stronger. So then when we are stronger, we can fight ourselves. So maybe you can have that kind of approach. Okay.
I'd like to speak to the families as much as possible and ask them before and whether they agree, especially when it's younger people, whether they allow them to be part of such work, but sometimes that's not possible. And so this woman made this conscious choice to become part of the workshop, even though she knew she was probably going to be punished for it. And of course, we also don't just perform and then leave and never come back. I mean, there's a strong network. There's a so-called transitional justice coordination group now in Afghanistan that works only in the field of how to deal with the past, that coordinates efforts of different victims groups and people who are involved in that kind of work. So of course, we're trying to do as much as possible also to give continuity to the work we're doing. But of course, it's also difficult to infringe in the individual lives of every single person who works with the work. And there is an individual risk in there, which unfortunately, nobody's able to control.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we need so much more time, and I am being told that we have to stop. So, I want to thank the panelists so much. It was a great honor.
I feel like I'm the enactor of violence, the time violence. Just so everyone understands, it's not just an arbitrary decision, but in order for Belarus Free Theater to have their tech time this afternoon so they can perform tonight, we have to all be out of here by a certain time. So it's with respect to the art as well. No, I know you didn't. I did. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the panelists again. Although we have these, if you were here last night and heard my remarks, we have the limousines in our mind that we are sending you to the airport here and back. The very real thing that we can offer you is a commemorative calendar of La Mama with the history and pictures of productions and posters. And although it's almost the end of 2010, this is actually a historical document, and we'll be giving this to all of our panelists. And thank you so much for making the time